So I want to show people today how to actually just get started and do some campaigns that get some results.
You know, it's kind of the biggest craze in link building right now, and that's why we wanted to have kind of a big module about this in the new link building course.
You have this saying, done is better than perfect.
Yeah.
And it's very, very true for digital PR.
The problem is like people kind of have these high expectations, never really get started, never really do it. That to me tells me is going to be more future-proof.
It's the problem a lot of companies have, us included. You ask someone in the street about SEO and nobody cares.
Stopping grandmas and asking them SEO advice for a YouTube video, but I guess we'll never do that one.
Got overruled on that one, unfortunately. Yeah.
Digital PR is the hot new thing in link building right now, and honestly, what's not to love? You get those super high quality links from big news sites that Google seems to be drooling over lately, plus you're getting your name out there with recognizable brands, which boosts your own brand's credibility. And here's the kicker, because it's real marketing, when your campaign really takes off, it can boost things like brand searches, which many SEO veterans agree Google is using these days in the recent algorithms. But here's the thing, a lot of people get cold feet when it comes to digital PR. They think it's this big, scary monster that only the pros can tackle. Well, today we're gonna bust that myth wide open. We're not just gonna tell you it's possible, we're gonna show you how we've done it ourselves. We've been in the digital PR game for a while now, and we've snagged links from pretty big names. We're talking like MarketWatch, Yahoo News, Fortune magazine, and even Forbes. So whether you've never dipped your toes in the digital PR waters or you've tried and struck out, this episode is for you. We're gonna break down what works and what doesn't, and how you can land your first successful campaign very soon. Now, this ties nicely with our brand new course, Link Builder Academy, which should be hitting the shelves right around when this episode drops. The strategies that we teach in it are the real deal and can seriously impact your SEO ROI. Using them, we've been able to build high-quality digital PR links for just $132 a pop, guest posts on the 60-plus sites for just $75, and linkable asset links for a measly $8 each. So if you care about links at all, and let's face it, who does not in SEO, you're gonna want to pay attention. But here's where we're switching things up a bit compared to our regular launches. Instead of trying to sell you the course right now, we're just gonna give you a taste for free. That's right, if you're watching right now, to thank you for your loyalty, you're getting a full module and a custom-built chatbot that will help you snag high-authority newspaper links. Our hope is that you'll see how awesome the course is and you want to buy the full training after checking it out. To get your hands on this free module, just head over to authorityhacker.com/high-dr-links. I repeat, authorityhacker.com/high-dr-links, and you'll be able to put your email and get instant access. And if you're thinking digital PR sounds great, but you just don't have the time or resources to do it yourself, don't sweat it. Just check out today's episode sponsor, Search Intelligence. They can help you build incredible digital PR presence without lifting a finger. We'll dive into what they offer a bit later, but for now, let's dive in the episode. Hi everyone, welcome to the Authority Hacker podcast. In today's episode, we're actually going to be going through real life examples of digital PR campaigns that both other people have done and have done really well, and we've done both well and not so well. Because I think one thing that's quite interesting about digital PR is, it's kind of the biggest craze in link building right now, and that's why we wanted to have like kind of a big module about this in the new link building course. But like people imagine that normal people can't do this. It's kind of like sacralized and like only certain agencies can do that. But actually, you can do this yourself and you can get press coverage on your own by running small campaigns. And we wanted to show you kind of like examples of campaigns you can do today, or like at least attempt to do, and how we've done it and the results that we got. Did I summarize it right?
I think that's fair. I think part of the problem, and certainly when we first got into digital PR, I was expecting each campaign to have hundreds and hundreds of links. But then I got told, actually, those are the exceptions, not the rule. But those exceptions just happen to be the ones that everyone talks about at conferences or uses as case studies on their agency website. So you have to be a little bit careful when you're getting started with this.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, it's the same for everything, right? It's like everyone talks about social media and they show you like posts that get millions of views and same for YouTube and everything. And I guess the same happens for digital PR. these things happen the same way as like a viral post is going to happen to you like once in a while on social media. But for these to happen, you just need to go through a lot of reps and you need to do it a lot. And one of them is just going to take off. And so the problem is like people kind of have these high expectations, never really get started, never really do it. And they're kind of stuck to maybe like lower quality guest posting or like things that seem to be a little bit more predictable for link building, which also, let's be honest, does a little bit less well than digital PR does. Like digital PR is kind of like the holy grail of acquiring links these days if you want to do well in SEO, right?
It's also, there's this kind of like perfectionist angle to it, right? You have this saying, done is better than perfect.
Yeah.
And it's very, very true for digital PR. So I want to show people today how to actually just get started and do some campaigns that get some results.
I have a question though, before we get started. Like, do you, like when I hire an agency, like a popular agency that does digital PR, like, is it the same for them? Like, do their campaigns only get a few links most of the time and only some of them really take off?
Well,
or is
most digital PR agencies will guarantee a minimum level of links, and usually you'll get quite a bit more than that, but they can't really control how many links they're getting. Sometimes a story will hit, sometimes it'll flop, but they usually have enough experience to be able to re-angle a campaign and get you what you need. So, yeah.
Okay, so it's like you should check that out, basically. Okay, let's jump into the examples. And as we go through the examples, you're going to show us kind of like the archetypes of campaigns that people can follow.
Yeah, so I want to start with that, though, because this is really important to understand what types of campaigns can be run and the way they're structured differently. There's two types in general. You've got the content first approach, which this is a term we came up with. This is when you're looking at some kind of news related to a medium to long-term trend. So what's going on in the world this year or, this quarter kind of thing, as opposed to a specific news story you're reacting to, which is the other type that's called newsjacking. So let's take a look at a few examples of content first approaches. The first one we've got here is from Writerbuddy AI. They created this really interesting, really successful piece analyzing the most visited AI tools. And this really gets to the heart of human emotion. And you'll notice that through a lot of digital PR stories as it taps into this kind of like competitive popularity contest vibe that people have within them. And they've targeted AI. Obviously, they're an AI tool, but AI's also been a really hot trend over the last 2 years or so. So they're kind of hitting it from both of these angles. If you're watching or listening to this podcast and you're looking at the Writerbuddy blog here, you'll instantly be able to see how they've done this. All they've done is they went to SEMrush, looked at the traffic of the most popular AI tools, and that was it. That was the extent of their research there. So
was it only search traffic then? Because SEMrush only reports that, right? Maybe something like, really? Does it?
Yep, that was it.
Okay.
Looked at their search traffic and looked at how popular they were, and then they ranked them. And they made a nice little infographic at the end to kind of visualize it, and it puts the size of ChatGPT compared to all the others into perspective there. But that was it. That was about the extent of what they did. They got 473 referring domains from this. And I think it worked because they hit this topic at the right time and because it really taps into that, I wonder who's the best. I wonder who's the most popular emotion that a lot of us have. Moving on to the next example, we've got Crossword Solver here, and they are in a kind of boring industry, to be honest, and it's a problem a lot of companies have, us included. SEO is not the most interesting industry to a lot of people.
It's hard to make videos.
You ask someone in the street about SEO and nobody cares.
That was an idea I had, actually, like stopping grandmas and asking them SEO advice for a YouTube video, but I guess we'll never do that one.
Got overruled on that one, unfortunately. So what they've done is they have done this big data analysis of the most popular emojis on Twitter in every country. And it's very, very clever the way they've angled this. And you'll see this in a lot of digital PR campaigns, is they are comparing something in different regions, states, or countries. The reason they do this is because it means they can then outreach to journalists in every country, every state, every region, whatever the campaign is covering, and hit all of the publications there. And everybody wants to know, how does my country, my state, my region compare to our neighbors, to the next country? And it's just sparks curiosity in a lot of people. And I think that's why this campaign did really well. They got 154 referring domains from it. One other thing that's very clever about this, I just add, is that they used emojis, which is very visual. So even if you don't speak English, then you can kind of understand what's going on here. So hence they picked up links.
You can engage.
Exactly. Hence they picked up links in Japan, in South American, Spanish sites, and many non-English sites as well. So very clever campaign there.
Yeah, these kind of campaigns, they're cool because you can get local press coverage as well. So in this case, it's like countries. So it means like every newspapers in every country could essentially cover this story, which is why they got so many links. Like I'm checking Ahrefs now, they got 133 referring domains, but that's much easier for them because every country can essentially link to them. If you're running campaigns within a single country, you can also do that by pitching regions against each other. Basically, that's kind of like an archetype you can use, and you can get more local press links, which are still very good links. Like DR6070s are pretty common for like local newspapers, and it's much easier to get run on a local newspaper than on a national newspaper usually.
We have an example coming up in this episode where we'll show you how we did that just at a state level in the US. So that's quite interesting to look at. The next one I want to talk about is from signs.com. They did something very unique in that they went out and they surveyed 150 people and they asked them to draw the logos of some popular brands like Apple, Adidas, Burger King, Domino's, 7-Eleven. And then they took all of the drawings together and compared them in one image. And it's so interesting to read through this article. If you're watching this on YouTube, or you're listening to the podcast, go watch this on YouTube or check the link in the description and check this out because it's super interesting. There's some like Apple logos here. They still have this stripy color one from like the 1990s and stuff in there. It's very, very interesting, but almost, again, hits on that kind of curiosity vibe that a lot of people would have, and a lot of these campaigns do hit on emotions like that. Pulling off a campaign like this is a little bit more tricky because you can't just go to the internet and do a survey or collect the data from somewhere. You actually got to go talk to, in this case, 150 real people. But with a little bit of budget, that's not really too big of a deal. Like a lot of universities do this fairly regularly with students. You can pay them $10 or something, and they'll
also, you don't need to qualify people, right? It can be anyone. And so, like,
exactly.
You could literally walk down in the street and ask people to draw for you, and that would be fine, actually. Like an iPad and Apple Pencil, and just be like, draw this for me, spend 2 days and get that. Okay, it sounds like crazy for SEO to like go outside and talk to people.
I know, scary, right?
But I mean, look, they got 405 referring domains if I checked from Ahrefs, which is pretty cool. But most importantly, I think what's really cool with this campaign is that there's a lot of social potential. So like brands probably can have a lot of fun on their Twitter accounts, etc., resharing like funny drawings of their brands and so on. And to me, like if you're being mentioned by a big brand, and if like that probably ends up driving up your branded search, which kind of like is a thing that Google's using as well with the recent updates to rank your site, right? You're doing all of this stuff to get links, but you're getting links to get more search traffic, right? And so what I like about these kind of PR campaigns is they kind of get you to your goal, which is getting more search traffic, but not just through links, through actual branding exercises and real marketing, which you don't really get when you're doing guest posting or when you're buying a link on Fiverr or something like that, right? And so like that to me tells me is going to be more future-proof. It's going to be easier to sell to maybe bigger stakeholders if you're working for big companies in-house, for example, etc. And it actually plays on more factors than just links, which is really
it also is kind of like baiting the brands into responding in a way. I'm sure not all of them did, but for sure some of them did.
Yeah, so it's a really cool campaign. I really like that. I really like the idea of like mixing PR and social in general, especially in a world where brand traffic is so important.
Okay, so we've talked about content first approach. We're tapping into a medium to long-term trend. What's going on? Let's take a look at newsjacking now, which is when we're looking at something which has happened, today or this week in the news and creating some content around it to react to it. So reactive PR, good example would be bulk.com. Now, there was a story from Chris Martin, who's the singer in Coldplay, how he does intermittent fasting. He only eats one meal per day. So this became big news one week. So what bulk.com did it was actually through Search Intelligence, who was running the campaign for them, but they did this campaign where they would reach out to people who had already covered the story and presented an expert from bulk.com, a nutritionist, to explain why that maybe wasn't such a good idea for everybody. And this really hits on controversy and expert opinion. So like, what does the scientific expert have to say about this story that this crazy celebrity is doing? And if it's not in line with what they're doing, that creates some kind of controversy. And that is quite appealing from a journalist perspective and from a news perspective. Remember, try and get in the minds of journalists when you're doing this. They are usually overworked and underpaid. They have huge deadlines to create multiple articles per day. They don't have very much time to research. So if you're just like giving them everything on a plate, say like, here's this expert that has this controversial opinion, this is all you need. Like, they can make this article really quickly with that. So, you know, they're going to take the path of least resistance when they can.
Do you think like search intelligence had the relationship before they did this, or they just found people who talked about the story and did not know them?
So I don't know. Maybe Ferry from Search Intelligence can weigh in on that one. But I will say, when we first got into digital PR, I had this assumption that all agencies, and they had these special relationships, and that's really how they were getting most of the links. But someone told me a while back, actually, that if you are relying on relationships to get links, then you're not very good at digital PR. Like, the story should carry itself. So you don't really need to rely on these relationships for that. I'm sure it happens, but it's hard to say exactly how much.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, fair enough. But like, you know, it's like, for example, when I did this story on like CNET that was using AI content, like I actually got some editors-in-chief that like opened their DMs to me on Twitter and so on. And that just allowed me to like directly feed them stories if I wanted. I imagine agencies have a bit of an edge on that because they run so many stories, actually.
Absolutely. If you think of the journalist perspective again, they're getting, you know, dozens of pitches every single day for people from stories. So if you have a track record of providing a good pitch that resulted in a good story, and that story did well for the journalist, they're obviously going to give you more time, at least look at your next idea, versus if they don't know you, they've never heard of you. So your reputation and some networking for sure counts, but it's really a smaller percentage. I think the underlying story is the main thing.
The reason I'm highlighting that as well is because we've actually built kind of like a contact tracker inside the Notion dashboard inside the course. So you are able to kind of like build your own little database of contacts that you have within an industry, and then you get to reuse them for your next campaigns, which I think is kind of like a cheat code for link building. The more you do it, the better your results.
Yeah, and that's not just digital PR. You should be doing that. Like, whenever we've built relationships with other companies in the link building space, that's almost universally been fruitful. So something a lot of people don't bother doing if they take a short-term perspective. So yeah. Speaking of perspectives, though, another type of newsjacking, not just there's reactive when you react to a story that's happening, and there's proactive when you predict a story is going to happen. Certain things happen every year, such as Christmas. You know, it's always on the 25th of December in most countries, I believe. Some countries do have it in different times of the year, apparently, like Venezuela for some reason. So essentially what Creditfix.com did is created a Christmas-light electricity cost calculator and an article to support that. They released that in early November, so about 3 or 4 weeks before most people would put up their Christmas tree and turn on their Christmas lights, to give people some perspective about the cost of running these things in electricity. And it worked because it's predictable. When the event was going to happen, everyone puts their Christmas lights up at the same time every year. And it also worked because there's this kind of like mood of the nation, as I call it, around saving money and, you know, inflation, all these types of things in 2023, that these are any article which was around saving money or making more money tended to perform quite well. So they
wasn't it the year when there was this crisis with Ukraine and like energy costs were like crazy high and stuff? Like, wasn't it also piggyback riding on that? I think I see the article is from 2022.
It's 2022. Yeah, you're right. So that would have been even more of the case than electricity costs being high here in Europe, at least. So yeah. I just ran my calculations actually, and it says that I would spend £460
for running Christmas lights for a month and a half. So that's
I say it was really high. Like
yeah, I'm definitely. This doesn't make me want to move to the UK. That's all I want to say.
Well, these like LED lights are supposed to be like low energy or something. So I don't know,
But anyway, the interest of this campaign is that, it's Christmas happening every year, so you can predict it's going to happen. You can cross it over with something that people are talking about, which at that time was the cost of energy, because there was an energy crisis in Europe that year specifically. We didn't even know if we were going to make it through the winter, if you remember, in terms of gas and so on. And so like that is perfect, because you have a predicted event, cross it over with news, and make something that's a little bit interactive to make a campaign that journalists are going to react to and want to cover, because that's trendy in two ways almost, in a seasonal way and in a news way.
Having said that, it only got 20 links. So, and I say
that's
that's kind of normal for a campaign. But depending on how much effort you put into it, that, you can say, was that worth it or not?
What's interesting is that these kind of calculators, you can now do these with Claude. Basically, Claude can actually write a calculator like the one on that page. So while I maybe it was a little bit difficult for some people to make that kind of campaigns before, now you just need a good idea, and you can use Claude artifacts to generate this. You can make it a plugin through it, and then you could essentially have that kind of calculator built on your site and run that kind of campaign. Even for 20 good links is totally worth doing, because the amount of resources needed to do something like this is so little right now, actually.
And that's really the game with doing digital PR in-house and doing it yourself, is optimizing for return on investment. So not spending thousands and thousands getting the content or the data that you need. And that actually leads perfectly into the first of the campaigns that we ran internally. Okay. And we were really trying to do this on the cheap first time around, so without going all out. The campaign that we ran was around the most popular side hustles in the US. So if you remember back to the map type campaign with the emojis, this is a similar kind of structure we're doing. It's a content first approach. We're taking data from Google Trends, which is free and about the cheapest, easiest way you can collect data on something. We're tapping into that emotion of popularity. So what's the most popular side hustle in each state? And we're also tapping into the comparison aspect. So how does my state compare to every other state? So our approach and our thinking was, maybe this will work, and maybe people will find this interesting. And it did work relatively well. I think in total we got 31 referring domains to it from sites like MarketWatch, Go Banking Rates, and then a lot of these small local newspapers as well, like Oregon Live, Syracuse.com, PennLive.com. There was a bunch of others as well. Throughout.
So we got a link from casinos.com. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it said there are 72 links. So.
I'm not sure if that was like a kind of scrapery type link.
Yeah, it's not follow.
I don't imagine we outreach to them, to be fair.
No. Okay. But there's some good ones. There's some good links in there. I'm checking it now.
For sure. And so, like, to outline the process of how we went through it, generally there's 3 steps, like ideation, so coming up with the thing you're going to do. Content, where you create the thing, and then outreach, where you outreach and try and get links. For ideation, we want to take a content first approach here. So as I said, we're looking at broad trends in the world at that time, and side hustles, making money. In 2023, it was super hot. The mood of the nation, as I call it, around saving money, every penny counts kind of thing was a big deal. But we also wanted to connect our brand, Authority Hacker, to that, and bringing in SEO or affiliate marketing in that way, it just doesn't connect with the average person in the street, as we said. So side hustles was kind of one step removed from that, but still kind of connected. So that's why we went with that approach. In terms of coming up with our originality anchor here, the thing that makes us unique, we wanted to do this based on a map, because we'd seen those types of campaigns work well before, and we knew that would give us a lot of prospects to outreach to. So we had that in mind. So it was really just, how can we compare side hustles across different countries or different states? And Google Trends was the cheapest, probably not the best, but the cheapest way we could look at that.
Now, one question is, like, how far can you go from the core topic of your site and to like someone who is, let's say, semantic or SEO oriented, like, and tells you like, oh, you're far away from your core topic, that's hurting your website? What would you answer?
Yeah, that is a good question. You can go pretty far. I mean, look at the crossword solver one. They had one targeting most popular emojis. Like, how is that related? Maybe they're both kind of to do with language, but it's a little bit of a stretch, isn't it?
Okay, but that's also what agencies do, right? When I check like campaigns from agencies, they also go a little bit far from the subject matter. I think if you want to get like kind of like wide coverage from large media, you need to talk about broad appeal topics, and it's not always what you do.
There's a few ways you can approach this. You can take what it is that your business does and then think, what is the closest related like broad B2C topic to this? So if you're in some kind of industrial food processing, machinery and all that, no one cares about, but food waste or food of any kind might be a more interesting like starter for your research for something like that. Maybe food recalls could also work. So try and do it that way. You could also focus on companies. We could do something on Google or OpenAI, for example. You focus on longer term trends. And this is really where there's not really a single way, step 1, do this, step 2, step 3, do this, but you need to look at what are the outcomes that you're aiming for. And that's when knowing the different types of campaigns, which we outlined earlier, is really helpful. And then it's really just a little bit of creativity, honestly. It's hard to do a complete paint by numbers for that bit.
I think this is the perfect segue to talk about our sponsor of today.
Search Intelligence has created the world's first digital PR ideation tool to help you find that inspiration for your next campaign. The initial inspiration for digital PR ideas can be pretty tough, especially if you don't have a team to work with. With their new tool, idiot.online, all you have to do is give it your site's domain name, and within a few seconds, you've got a ton of ideas for your next digital PR campaign. It's really interesting. The tool is trained with data from Search Intelligence's successful campaigns, and honestly, it's pretty good. We tried it with our domain authority hacker, clicked the CAPTCHA to prove we weren't robots, and a few milliseconds later, the tool accurately picked out our site's main topics like SEO, digital marketing strategies, and affiliate marketing. And there are dozens and dozens of suggestions for our next digital PR campaign. It even broke down suggestions into helpful categories like saving and preventing, warnings and dangers, best worst tools, frequency, why and why not, and even regional specific ones like UK tabloid media. This is actually a huge time saver because the story structures behind this have already been tried and tested and proven to work. So even if you don't use the exact suggestions, I'm sure it's going to spark some massive inspiration. And remember, you only need one good idea from the tool to have a successful campaign. You can kick these campaigns off yourself, or to take the hassle completely out of your hands, click the Execute This Idea button to get in touch with Search Intelligence to do it for you. Making a creative digital PR campaign has never been easier. Thanks again to Search Intelligence for sponsoring this video.
All right, so let's go back to the campaign, right? So the popular side hustle, we came up with the idea because that was kind of related to our topic. Like, how did we actually, we put the content together from Google Trends, you say? Then what did we do?
We found the most popular side hustles across the US, made a list of them, and then researched in every state. Google Trends lets you filter by state. So we looked at the trends for each one in every state. Took a bit of work, put it all into a spreadsheet, and then we made a ranking of the most popular ones. To go a little bit further, because honestly, Google Trends is it's not the most sophisticated of campaign, and it's, in terms of making an originality anchor, it's not that great. What we then did is we found some pricing data on how much people were getting paid for each side hustle in every state. We got that from Indeed.com and ZipRecruiter, 2 recruitment websites. So then we compared all of that, and then we put it into a map on our site that it's kind of like an interactive map. You could hover over each state and see what the most popular ones are and how much they cost. We did use our dev for this. It took a little bit of time to build, like a day or so of work, I think. But honestly, there's a lot of off-the-shelf code, especially for things like maps, that you can use and probably do that in a fraction of the time, or even code it yourself in a sort of no-code way. We then created our article where we're sort of placing ourselves at the center of the news cycle, talking about other stories which are related to side hustles and general economic doom and gloom to help kind of cement its purpose in a way. And then we presented all of the individual data state by state in toggle drop downs at the bottom of the article. That was really just to show completeness for when we came on to do our outreach, which was the next thing we did.
How much do they care about the quality of the data? Like, if you stuck to just Google Trends, would that have been enough? if the
Good question. So I think the harder it is to get the data, or the harder they perceive it is to get the data, the more they think it's kind of something unique. That's a general rule. There are plenty of stories out there that have used very basic data out there and get hundreds of links. So there's always an exception to it. What I will say is that we've never once been asked to provide the underlying data. No one really checks. However, I have been told that when you're working with tier one outlets, think BBC, New York Times, that kind of level, they look a bit more kind of behind what's going on to verify everything. Next, we moved on to the outreach section. Here, we built a prospect list of journalists who were covering similar stories around economic sadness, cost of living, side hustles, and even some specific side hustles that were on our list as well.
How did you find them?
We did this on Google News, just looked for the keywords and started building up a list of articles there. And that was essentially our prospect list. In order to get their contact info, it's a little bit different from normal link building in digital PR. There's all these journalist databases and tools specifically to find emails of journalists. So we used one called Prowly, which is currently run by or owned by SEMrush, actually. And it's at the time it was great because all of the other tools out there, Cision and these kind of tools, were super expensive. You pay $10,000 a year, and the economics only work if you're running an agency doing a bunch of campaigns every single month. What we did with Prowly was like $299 a month. So still not cheap, but it was all right. The problem with Prowly is they have credit limits on exports. I don't know if they got that one from Ahrefs. Maybe they learned a thing or two there. The user interface is a little bit complex, right? They've gone to town on adding all these features for like email sending and link monitoring and all this kind of stuff. And it's just not necessary. Like, just give me the damn email. That's all I really care about.
Sounds like a CMRsh, yeah.
The keyword search in there works, but it doesn't work by scraping Google. They have some kind of other tech behind it. So yeah, it's a little bit clunky. But since then, we didn't use it for this campaign. Since then, we've started using another tool called journofinder.com. This is a third of the price. So you pay like $99 a month. And it's built by someone who actually does campaigns exactly like this. So if you think of Hunter.io's interface, like how easy it is to upload a list of sites and do a bulk search, and just it just works. It's really, really well coded, Hunter. Journal Finder is like that, but for digital PR. So cool. It will scrape Google and Google News in the same way that you would do manually. So that saves you a ton of time there. You can upload a list of URLs and it will find the authors for the article. And the media list storing is just as good as Prowly, and the export function works really well as well. So for a third of the price, for a better, easier to use tool, you really can't complain. It's the one I would recommend.
So how much is it?
$99 per month.
I see it, yeah. If you pay yearly, it's $83. Okay, that's the thing. It's like a lot of people were intimidated by digital PR because the databases were so expensive.
Exactly,
right? Yeah. And now it's like $99 a month. I mean, like, how much do you spend on link building? Like, if you're like a serious link builder, you're spending like this times 100 or something, and it's definitely reachable for most people. Actually, looks cool. I haven't tried it, but I definitely want to try actually.
So then it comes to outreach, where all we do is we send them a short message. In the beginning, in these campaigns, we were trying to personalize it, I think, a bit too much, saying like, oh, hey, we read your article about
they don't care,
this other thing. We're coming from like a SEO, link building, guest posting type mindset. But with digital PR, they don't care as much. They actually want to be pitched multiple times a day, and they just want to quickly get to the gist of the story, like, and make a decision. Do I want to cover this or not? So they welcome pitches, but if they're not good, they'll just ignore them. So it was kind of a learning experience there. So the structure of your pitch should be a short introduction about what you're trying to pitch to them. Personalization, all you really need these days is to have their name. And then kind of below your email, after your sign off, you have your press release. In some cases, if you have a short article, it can literally be the entire article. Because we had lots of data and toggles and things like that, we just took the kind of top section for what were our key findings and takeaways and pasted that there. That means the journalist doesn't even have to click out of their inbox to read everything they need to and make a decision about whether they want to feature us or not.
Okay, so what's the hit rates with these kind of campaigns? Like, how many emails do you send and how many actually get picked up?
So we were looking at about 2 to 5% success rate, outreach resulting in a link. It's a little bit difficult to gauge interest initially with digital PR because, and this was surprising to me, because nobody responded to the emails. They just cover the story and then you find out about it usually through Ahrefs or Google Alerts or something, as opposed to them saying, hey, we featured you, because journalists, they have zero time and there's not really too much benefit for them starting a conversation with you. They don't want to get into it. So they'll just
they run emails.
Take your stuff, publish it, and then move on to the next thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But like 5% is pretty good, actually. If you think about like outreaching in general, like if you outreach to normal websites, like 5%, you're pretty happy, I think.
Absolutely. And it's because you've created something valuable here through your originality anchor. Like the data we have and the way it's presented is interesting to a lot of people, as was evidenced by the coverage that it got. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with that.
Yeah, I think it's good. It shows you, like, people imagine also digital PR is like, it's so intimidating that like journalists will never pick it up and your success rate will be like way lower than it would be for outreach. I would almost argue it might be reversing at this point, because like everyone's spamming webmasters like crazy and people are a bit intimidated by digital PR. So it's kind of a case of like you zig when they zag and you just avoid the crowds by actually going in that direction. And you do get better links in the end. So yeah, I think
for sure. And
it's
gotten more accessible as the knowledge has gotten better and tools have gotten better and cheaper, more affordable.
Yeah, Journal Finder is great, actually.
Exactly, yeah.
Let's talk about the next campaign.
Sure. So the next campaign we ran was around job security. And this was really interesting because at the time we launched the campaign at the start of 2024, a lot of big tech companies were laying off a lot of people. So we wanted to create a campaign, and we kind of had AI at the back of our mind because that's just really popular, and that's what we've been creating a lot of content about, even on this podcast and in other places over the last few years, because it does really well with our audience. It also does really well with people outside of our audience. The general public care about AI. So when we were looking for AI stories at the start of the year, a lot of layoff stories came up around these big tech companies. I think in the first 5 weeks of 2024, there were 33,000 layoffs in tech in the US. And there's quite a lot right before that at the end of last year as well. One CEO in particular was blaming AI, generative AI, for a lot of this stuff. So we're like, okay, we've got our kind of angle for how we want to take this. How can we create an originality anchor, something that stands out, and we're doing this unique in this space to further the story that's already kind of the news cycle that's already going on. So our idea was to create a survey here. We used a tool called Pullfish to do, which we talked about in the last episode of the podcast. We were talking about our linkable asset campaigns running surveys. So we used the same tool, pullfish.com, to survey, I think it was 1,200 people in the US about how they felt about job security. We asked them some questions like, how safe do you feel you are in your job? How likely you think your job security is to be affected by AI, and how the economy will affect your job security. So it was really interesting because Pullfish gives you demographic data for all your participants. So you can then break down people's responses by age, the sector they work in, employment status, salary even, which led us to find this really interesting dynamic that older, better paid tech workers were by far the most scared of AI.
I see
which is interesting because they maybe know AI a little bit better. So is it because they're more aware of what it can actually do, and this is a real threat? So we wanted to kind of like tap into that scarcity, like fear-based emotion when we're creating this piece. So when we ended up analyzing the data, we were able to pull out a lot of cool charts and stuff like that, which we made up in Canva. And we even got our illustrator to make this nice infographic, which broke down the kind of job security concerns by industry as well, and all the tech-based industries are sort of towards the top there. So that was kind of cool.
Okay, that's a cool angle. I think it might be a bit risky or scary for the listeners. Like, how well did that do?
That did almost as well as the first one. So we got 27 referring domains, including links from Business Insider, Yahoo Finance, Yahoo News, Fortune, Fast Company. All of these are DR90 plus sites, by the way. So I would count this as a pretty successful campaign.
That's the thing. It's like 27 links. The problem is that counting just the number of links, it doesn't necessarily reflect on like how well a campaign has done, because like, okay, if you got 27 links from the R30 sites, like you cannot compare to getting links from these kind of sites. I'm looking at it now. Yeah, we have Business Insider. We have, there's a lot of good ones.
There are like, let's call them unscrupulous link dealers out there. You probably get emails from them as well. They'll pitch you saying, hey, do you want to buy a link on Business Insider? Do you want to buy a link on such and such company? And they'll sell them for like $800 or $1,200 for one link.
That's right.
I don't know exactly how they're doing it. Maybe they have some corrupted intern there or whatever. But the value of one of these links, according to that market at least, is very, very high. And considering like the main cost for our campaign here was the survey data, which was, I think it was like $1,100, give or take, to run it. We already made our money back almost in just like one of those links, depending on how you value, obviously. But we got several of those links, so it was a successful campaign that had a good return. This one, I would say for
that's
sure.
the thing. I think that's so important. It's like the cost per link is like so much lower than like going through the market and outsourcing it. It's quite insane. Like as you said, like pretty much one of these links that we got, I have Ahrefs open now, like a Business Insider link or a Yahoo link or a Fast Company link. Like that would be the cost of almost the entire campaign, maybe a little bit less, but not a lot. And so like we managed to build like essentially 10, 15 times more links that like discounting some of the lower links in there. Like I see some lower links at the end. So it's like they're not all great. But like that if you divide your cost per link by 10, like what does that do to your SEO strategy in general? Like how much more can you get out of SEO for the same budget? And I think that's kind of like the essence of what we're trying to tell people,
That's the game of link building is not like, can I build links? Yes, everybody can do it if they just try a little.
With enough money.
But it's
and
like,
resources.
How can I build the quantity and quality of links I need to take my site to that top tier where things just get much easier, right?
But also, how can I do this in a way where I'm still ROI positive? Because as we said in the previous podcast, like to get your site to a level of authority where you can compete decently in search these days, you need pretty high authority, right? It's like the DR50, 60 is like, I'd say you start playing, and in many industries, like 70 plus to start playing.
You know something that's funny? So I lived in Hungary for 8.5 years. And I only just learned this earlier this year, is that there's a saying about Scottish people in Hungary that they're really cheap. And I didn't realize that was a thing.
From Hungary, that's pretty offensive, but sure.
Exactly, but it is. Like us Scots, we're notorious penny pinchers. And I think that has come through in our approach at Authority Hacker to link building. Like we've built thousands and thousands of links for like very, very little money. And it was because like I just refused to spend like shitloads of money on going balls to the wall with some of this stuff. So.
And then I want to say, like, you can absolutely hire help for like competencies you don't have in house, but I think like hiring help for every single link you built seems like crazy in terms of budget,
Full disclosure, like when we first got into this, we worked with some digital PR companies and some professionals in there because like it's great to learn from it, but like building up your own competency in-house, like it's an invaluable thing you can do for your business. So
yeah, because I think to give some context to people, like we build all these links with like one link builder on payroll, like that's it. That was
half of his job as well. So.
Yeah, he was doing something else as well or something. So it's like and obviously a little bit of money into the polling and tools and everything. Like we do spend money there, but like that's the extent of the link budget, and that's the kind of links that we managed to build, and that's so. It's like I know a lot of people are looking. They're like, "Oh, you guys are launching a link building course," or like, "I've seen these tactics already before," etc. That's not the point. The point is like, how do you execute this at a decent scale and at a very, very, very good and competitive price? Where if you're an agency, you can save a bunch of money, And if you're in-house, you can get a lot more for your budget, and you can actually be competitive in SEO, because with the budget you have, you can, take on much larger size than yours if they're not doing this. And so that's kind of like
without getting too much into a pitch, but also like how you can get your team members to do all of the work to do that, so you don't have to.
Yeah, we didn't build these, right?
I didn't do any of this prospecting outreach. I had a little bit of input on the ideation and things like that, but our team executed the entire campaign essentially without us.
Yeah. It's like a lot of this stuff I'm like literally discovering as we prepare this podcast, So like, yeah, that's I just wanted to say that because I know there will be some criticism on like on some stuff we're releasing right now, but I want to say like the point is not like the tactics. The point is like how much and at what scale, like how much do you spend and at what scale can you do this confidently without dropping the quality while getting links from the sites that we're talking about. That's the challenge of link building, not the ability to build links. Let's keep going.
So just to finish off on the last one, on how we actually did the outreach for that one. So it was very similar to the previous piece. We looked for articles that were covering the tech layoffs, which there were a lot of at the time, and any kind of workforce reduction in major companies. So like Google, Amazon, Microsoft, Spotify, like people who were covering those specifically. And then just any other general like state of the economy topics. We used Prowly again to find contact info for them. And we outreached in a very, very similar way. There were a couple of small differences. The pitch that we did at the end of the email was a little bit longer just because there was a lot more to convey with this one. And we also attached the infographic that we created as well. So I'm not sure how much that affected things, but yeah, we got 27 referring domains from this and was pretty happy with it. Especially considering job security. It's like, it does have broad appeal, but it's starting to get a little bit
businessy,
a little bit more niche. And that brings us on to the next piece we did quite well, which was around AI regulation. Now, when I read it, just reading the word regulation, it's like, oh, I'm going to fall asleep here.
Sounds fun.
It's probably not the best angle, but we still made it work, which was quite interesting. So we got 21 referring domains in this one. So it was slightly less than the others, but still it was pretty reasonable for a digital PR campaign, considering the time and energy invested in this one wasn't particularly high. Like once we'd figured out how to do this process before, a lot of it was just doing the same thing again. So it was quite easy. We got a link from Tech Radar, so DR90 site there. And we also got links from MMM Online, which is like a medical marketing website. So very, very kind of specialist B2B site there, DR75. GRC World Forums, which is about corporate responsibility and governance. So, some very, very interesting topics there for you to read. But again, DR71 site. Very... a bit more niche, let's say. And that was, I think, because the topic was a bit drier in that sense. The idea here was we wanted to cover something, again, AI related, because it does well. We'd had success with it in the past. And we were looking at the current news cycle. And as we were doing that, AI regulation, specifically in the US, was being talked about a lot. Now, I realize now that the average person in the street does not care about AI regulation. We maybe missed that a little bit, but at the same time, there is this underlying fear of, is this going to turn into Skynet and take over the world thing? So we were hoping we could kind of tap into that a little bit.
How much did we spend on this? Like, did we spend a lot of money on this?
So this one we went with 2,000 respondents. I think we maybe made a mistake there because that cost twice as much as a campaign with 1,000 respondents, and I don't think it brought us anything extra.
I would say we break even here. Like, given the links we got, it's like, I wouldn't say it's like the best campaign ever, and we learned from this. But like, given the link from Tech Radar and these DR70 plus sites, it's I would say we break even.
When I first got into digital PR, one of the first things I remember being told was that you need a minimum of 1,000 survey respondents to be taken seriously, and 5,000 if you're going for a tier 1 publication, the BBC or New York Times. So 2,000, it was like kind of unnecessarily in the middle there. We should have just stuck to 1,000, saved the money, and gone from there. We also did some research, like country by country. So we looked at every country in the world, and we tried to find what their AI regulation was like, and we grouped them into a few different categories to create this map. The idea being that we could maybe reach out to sites in different countries, but that didn't really pan out so well. because of the nature of the topic. And a lot of countries just didn't have regulation and didn't care about it. And it wasn't this.
They didn't care yet until like see you in a few years when the jobs start falling off and then people will care more.
Yeah, exactly. But then they're not going to blame the regulation. They'll blame the current politicians or, the tech CEOs or whoever it is.
So would you say you regret doing this campaign? Like it was okay, but it was...
No, because it's a great learning experience from a point of view of, I think it was a well-executed campaign. It's just we got the angle and the topic a little bit wrong. We should have gone for something that had more broad appeal and was a bit more exciting or interesting or even a bit more scary. We could have maybe found a way of linking it to AI fears and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Maybe something around AI companies, maybe lobbying around politicians or manipulating them or something like this.
Yeah, exactly. Like, how they're trying to control you or steal your data or whatever it is. So, yeah. When it came to creating the content for this piece, we used simple color-coded map. So no dev work was required here. I think we did all that in Canva. Presented the top-level findings from the survey. I think we could have still presented the story a little bit better, maybe made the survey results a bit more visual.
I think it's a bit wordy, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's like, if I was involved with this, it's like I feel like journalists just don't have time to read this. And I would focus maybe a bit more above the fold, like quick takeaways or something like this, like a lot of big newspapers do that. That would be my take.
What we were trying to do was cement our story within the news cycle. So we're saying all this other interesting stuff has been happening and we're kind of linking to those stories. Here's why ours is relevant. But I think we spent too long doing that, and you're right.
I agree.
I think we should have gotten to the point more and made those results a bit more visual in that way.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, again, good learning experience. And it shows that not every campaign is successful, but it doesn't mean you can't save a ton of money running your own campaigns. Like this one was I would call it a break-even campaign.
Yeah.
Like the links we got was it's okay, but it's like if we had outsourced it, probably would have been around the same price for the same result. But the other ones were significantly better, and we just keep doing this and keep getting better at this. But we wanted to be realistic and show you stuff that we've done and so on. And the point of this podcast was to kind of remove the shield that people have against digital PR, thinking only qualified professionals can do this. Like everyone can do this, provided you run an interesting story and run outreach that's not bad. And you can build these links that the really big sites have for really a fair amount of money. I want to repeat that our cost per link on digital PR is around $130, which it's not cheap, but we're talking the 80, 90 plus links that you would probably buy for $1,000 on the market if you were actually passing through someone else. So we're talking about huge savings and huge, essentially. But if you're an agency, huge potential profit margin, right? If you're able to do these links for this price and then you sell them for $1,000, that's a fair amount of profit that you can do, even if you have some staff on payroll, etc. And so that's the opportunity for people who are still focusing on SEO. That is to essentially learn to build that skill in-house, so you can build these kind of links that people still sacralize a lot for not a lot of money or for a budget that most people can reach. So I hope we managed to do that in this episode and show you some real life examples. And if you want to learn how to actually do these campaigns, Mark has shot an entire big digital PR module that will show you step by step how to make these campaigns, and you go behind the scenes on how we run some of these and so on, how to write your surveys and how to essentially process the data, and a lot of things that we could not necessarily talk about in this episode. But the launch is ending soon, so make sure you don't miss it out. Go check it out. We'll actually put the URL in the description and at the bottom of the screen. So if you want to learn more about the course, that includes the digital PR module and a bunch of other things as well. You can go on authorityhacker.com/linkbuilderacademy and you'll be able to have all the information. But the launch is closing soon, so make sure you don't miss it out, because we don't extend our launches pretty much ever. Unless there's a technical problem, we will not extend it, basically. So that's pretty much it. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, we'll see you in 2 weeks for another one. Bye-bye. All right, that's a wrap for today's episode. I hope it got your creative juices flowing and showed you anyone can dive into digital PR. Who knows, your next killer campaign might be just around the corner. Now, before we sign off, I've got to tell you about our brand new course, Link Builder Academy. If you are serious about SEO, this is something you don't want to miss. In this training, we're pulling back the curtain on our tried and true systems, the same systems that allowed us to build digital PR links for just $130 each, guest posts on the R60 Plus sites for just $75, and linkable asset size for a mere $8 a pop. And here's the kicker, we're giving you a taste for free. You'll get a full module of the training and a custom-built chatbot to help you snag high-authority newspaper links. It's kind of our way to show you how powerful this stuff is, and we hope you want to buy the whole thing after checking it out. So to get your free module, head over to authorityhacker.com/hi-dr-links. I repeat, authorityhacker.com/hi-dr-links. Put your email and you get instant access. Thanks for tuning in today. We can't wait to see you inside Link Builder Academy. And until next time, keep crushing it out there.